The AI and automation space is about to change, or if not, it has already changed, in a way that now anyone can create powerful workflows inside platforms like n8n just by talking to an LLM or an AI in natural language. Today, I want to introduce you guys into Claude Code. There has been a lot of noise in the internet lately regarding Claude Code, and we're going to see here inside of Google Trends that the average search for n8n has been very linear, and the one for Claude Code has been growing a lot in the past few weeks. So I decided I wanted to make my own video to show you guys how to set this up yourself and make it super simple. Basically, Claude Code is an AI agent that you can install inside an IDE, which is, we're going to look at it as an interface where you can chat with it. And this agent has the ability to connect directly into your n8n and build workflows. And it's actually really good at building very complex workflows. If you look at this workflow right here, I built it using Claude Code, just using natural language, a couple iterations. And this automation triggers every day at 7 a.m. It pulls information from a bunch of articles and gives me the latest news and trends that are going on inside the AI space, which are then curated and summarized into a newsletter by an AI agent and then sent over to my email. And right here is an example of one of those newsletters. This is the one I got today. It got some feature stories as well as the sources for each of those articles if I'm interested in one specifically. This is a very useful resource in case if I want to create content based on those news and stay up to date with the latest AI news. This is great. So today I want to show you guys how you can set Claude Code and have it build an automation inside n8n for you that you can use on a regular basis. So before I jump into the setup of Claude Code, I want to quickly explain how this works. Basically, we're going to be providing in natural language the instructions of the workflow that we want through the IDE, which is an integrated development environment. Think of it as a chat interface, as I mentioned before. We're going to try to not overcomplicate things over here. And in that chat interface, we're going to be talking directly to Claude Code. If you don't know what Claude is an AI model by Anthropic, and they have Claude Code, which essentially is an AI agent that can do coding and a lot of other powerful things. Then once Claude Code gets our message, it's going to go into our n8n to build the automation for us using MCP. But think about it as the resources that Claude Code needs in order to have access to your n8n account and build the automation for you. Don't worry about it. We're going to jump into it right now and make it super simple. So the first thing you want to do is you want to install the IDE inside of your computer. This is going to be where you're going to be chatting to Claude. I've already installed it. Once installed it, it's going to look something like this. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to come over here into extensions and search out for Claude. You want to choose the first one and install it. As you see, I've already installed it. Then up here on your top right, you're going to see this icon right here, which is the Anthropic or the Claude logo. And if you click on it, the window for chatting with it's not going to pop up. And we're going to start chatting with it over here. But before we do that, I want to create a folder in which I'm going to be storing this automation. So for that, if I go over here to Explorer, I can open a folder, which is going to be sort of like my project where I'm going to be storing all the files for this specific project. I'm going to store mine inside documents. I already have a folder called Claude Code projects, and I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to name it n8n tutorial. Open. You want to click on yes, I trust the authors. And now you can open Claude and you're inside of the n8n tutorial folder. If you see over here in the Explorer, it says n8n tutorial. This basically means that I'm inside the folder that I just created. And the first thing we want to do is we want to create a file that's going to be called cloud.md. Think of this file as the system prompt for your agent or for Claude. This is going to be the instructions of the agent that it's going to be referring to when building these automations for us. So in order to create this file, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to have the option to change the mode that we're chatting with this agent. And so whenever you're planning or you're building your Claude.md file, you're going to want to use plan mode, because then you're going to work with the agent. He's going to ask you questions and then you're going to give it all the details that it needs in order to build the instructions or the main prompt for your project. I'm going to say something like, hey Claude, I want you to help me write the cloud.md file. This is going to be a file in which you're going to be storing all of the instructions for this project. This project is going to be in n8n workflow builder. You're going to have access to things like my n8n account through MCP. You're also going to be able to have access to n8n skills and build powerful workflows and automations directly into my instance. Please start planning the cloud.md file. Ask me any questions that you need in order to make this as best as possible. And we're going to send that. If you're wondering what tool I'm using Whisperflow. It's a super great tool in order to save time by typing. I find it easier whenever you're talking to agents like this one, if you just say what you want. And so right now, maybe I didn't give it all the specifics on what we're going to be building, but that's why I tell them always to ask me questions back so that we can get some clarity. So now it's asking me where my n8n is hosted. So I'm going to say self-hosted via Docker, and then use cases. I'm just going to say AI LLM agents. And then here it's asking me for the MCP tools that I already have connected for N8N. Do I have any MCP server set up that can read up those workflows directly? I'm going to say MCP server, and then scope, N8N focus, submit answer. And now it's going to get more context on what it is that I'm looking for. So now what happened was that he gave me a plan to how it's going to be writing the cloud.md file. It gave me a little bit of what's going to be included in that plan. And I said, go ahead and do it. And I approve the plan. If you see over here, it says plan approved. And so it basically gave me a plan to how to write this file and what's going to be included. I approve the plan. And then it asked me a question to which I approve the plan. And now if you see, the mode was changed to edit automatically. This means that the agent's now creating that file on its own. And as you see now up here, here on the left side where we see all of our files, the cloud.md file has been created. And if we take a look at it, they're just instructions for the agent to have. So for example, N8N agent workflow builder, N8N instance details, available skills, MCP tool usage guidelines. So one thing to notice here is that we already have some skills over here. And I'm going to show you how you can get those skills into your project. I've already done this in the past, so they're installed globally. Same thing with the MCP tools and usage guidelines. We're going to give it access to the MCP. So for that, I'm going to say, please install both the skills and MCP service to N8N in this project. And I have two GitHub links. So let me explain to you what these links are. The first link is going to be the N8N skills. Someone basically put together a bunch of documents or markdown documents that explain how to use the MCP of N8N. There are different skills inside of Claude. You can have skills for like front-end design, which are just specific instructions on how to build better front-end, for example. But in this case, this is for N8N. And I also have another Git repository here that has information about the actual MCP server and what are all the available actions to use through the MCP. Don't worry about it. All you need to do is to copy both of those links and come over here to Claude and say, please install both into the project. So I provided both links. Now I'm just going to hit enter. Personally, I don't even know how to install this manually. So you can tell Claude these things are powerful to where they can take care and do it on their own. As you see, now it's going to ask me a question if it can fetch the URL and look into it. So I'm going to say yes. But I actually don't want this to ask me every single time for permissions. So in order to do that, I'm going to set this mode into bypass permissions. In the beginning, if this is your first time setting up Claude, you're not going to see this option. And the way to see this option is to enable it by going over to the settings. And then in here, you can see, you can search bypass permissions. And you're going to see that a Claude Code allow dangerously skip permissions option over here is on for me. It's going to be off for you if this is your first time. Make sure you turn it on so that it can work on its own. Don't worry, here it says it's dangerous, but if you're prompting Claude the right way and you know what you want and you're constantly checking if it's doing the right thing, then there shouldn't be any issues. As long as your instructions are clear, you should be okay. So like it's done, it now says that both are now set up for this project, and then skills already installed globally. Like I mentioned, I've done this in the past. And now that the MCP was also installed in the project, it has created the file called mcp.json. If you look over here on the left side, we're going to see it right here. And this basically is going to contain my N8N URL for my instance in the cloud, as well as my N8N API key, which is needed. If this is the first time you're doing this, then Claude's going to ask you to provide that for them. And if you wonder what your N8N URL is, it's just going to be up here, all the way up to where it ends cloud, or the first slash. And then to get your API key, you would have to go over to your settings, N8N API. You will create a new API key. You're going to give it a name. And in expiration, I like to put no expiration. Click save, and this is what you would be providing over to Claude. So now that both our MCP and the skills have been installed into our project, we can go ahead and start a new conversation with Claude. I clear up the conversation by doing /clear, and I can now provide him instructions on what's the workflow that we're going to be building. So I can say, okay, Claude, I want you to build an automation that's going to be scheduled every single day at 7 a.m. Phoenix time. And it's going to be pulling information from different RSS feeds that are related to AI trends and AI news. With these articles, then you're going to be passing that through an AI agent that's going to be in charge of creating a newsletter that will then be sent to my email directly using a Gmail node, and make sure that the newsletter is formatted in a pretty HTML. So I'm going to send that. And I forgot to put in here to set it as plan mode. So every time you start an automation or a new workflow through Claude Code, you always want to start off with using the plan mode. That way, Claude Code can ask you things of different things that it might need in order to have a full plan and build an automation that you want instead of having results that might not even work. So the first thing that Claude Code has done is use the MCP to check if it has access to the n8n. As you see, we can see different calls to the MCP, and it says the instance is healthy and running. And now it's going to get some detailed configuration and information of the keynotes to put it all in the plan. So we're going to wait for the plan. So if you see now, it's asking me a question regarding what email it's going to be sending the newsletter to. This is something that I didn't specify in the initial prompt, and that's why it's asking me. And this is why it's very important to use plan mode before actually execute. So for this, I'm going to say other, and it's going to put my personal email address. Then for credentials, asking me if the credentials have already been configured into my instance. So I'm going to say yes, they've both been set up. And it's asking me about RSS feeds. I'm going to say yes, because I'm not familiar with which ones are good. So we're just going to trust that it's going to give us good RSS feeds. Now it's come up with the plan. We can go ahead and read the plan briefly. The workflow architecture is always the thing that I looked at first to see how it's going to be structured. So we're going to have a schedule trigger at 7 a.m. Then we're going to have RSS feed 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to merge that. We're going to have a code node, an AI agent, and then it's going to be sent to my email. You can read through this a little bit in more detail, but for now, I'm just going to click yes and auto accept. And I'm going to put this in bypass permissions so that it goes ahead and just create the workflow for me without constantly asking me permissions to go into and use the MCP. We can also see that it has its own checklist as it's completing each task. Then it's going to be marking them off. So this is a very organized agent, as you can tell. So now we see that all of them have been crossed out, and we have some information coming in from what the workflow is. And I see that it didn't really give me the link to the workflow, so I can say, give me the link to the workflow. And so if I click on that, here's the workflow. We can actually go ahead and test it out. I'm just going to make sure that my credentials are set over here. Looks like it's all good. And I'm going to click on execute workflow. Looks like with that one error, and that it has to do with the RSS itself. So I'm actually just going to deactivate it and hit execute again, just so that we can get the first version of our newsletter and see how it looks like. And here it is. So we get some information about different news. And I can actually click on each one of those and it takes me to the original article. So like I said, we had this initial error and I want to actually fix that. So now to fix this, I can just talk to Claude Code and have it go back into the workflow and fix it for me. Or if I want to make it a little bit different, if I don't like the way that the newsletter is coming as, I can talk directly to Claude Code over here and he'll go ahead and do the changes. So I'm going to make some changes and we'll look at the final version. And here's my final version. As you see, I changed some of the resources from where I was going to be getting the information from and a little other changes. Initially, I was running into some issues with it not actually merging all of them, so I had to tell him to add more merge nodes and that sort of thing. It added some other filters and it decided that splitting it in between two agents was the best way to do it. And here's the final result, which I'm very happy with. I think these are very relevant news. For example, it's talking about Maltbook. If you guys heard about Maltbot, Clockbot, OpenClaw, it's been going viral. So getting these type of news all in the same place every single morning is really good because it helps me come up with ideas for content or for stuff that I should look into if I find anything interesting. And I can just click read article and it'll take me to the complete article. And that is how you can get started with Claude Code and how you can have it build in-data workflows for you. I think this is the future of automations. I've been building automations manually for a while, and I actually decided to make this video because I posted another video recently in which I was building an automation from scratch, which wasn't too complicated, and they just said, why don't you just do it with Claude Code? And I've heard a little bit about it, but I was a little bit skeptical because I've tried it in the past, like a few months ago, and the results weren't great. But the results that I'm getting now are actually really good, and I think the planning setting really helps. But I still think it's important to learn n8n just so that you develop that logic on how it is to build automations and how to think about it step by step. For example, when I gave it the initial prompt, I was saying step by step what I wanted, and I think that's a skill that you need to develop as you're building more and more solutions. Anyways, I hope you find this video helpful, and if you want to stay up to date with my content in the AI news and what's going on in the space, feel free to join my free Skool community down in the description. I'll leave a link so that you can join and be surrounded with other people who are also in the AI and automation space. See you guys on the next one.